Hello for Year 4 artists and welcome back. We're on our second art lesson. Let's have a look and see what we're up to today. So in our first lesson, we were looking at lines, weren't we? And we were experimenting with different pressures and different ways of holding our pencil. Today, we're moving on to look at shape, the key element of shape, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. We're going to carry on experimenting with using our pencil. We're going to try and control our pencil to make some really nice shapes. And we're going to continue looking at the life of Russo. So what are we starting with? Make sure we've got some things that we need first. So we need a pencil and plain paper as usual, but we also need some objects. Okay, so you could go and get a couple of objects that are maybe your favorite objects in the house. So maybe you've got a favorite toy or an ornament in your bedroom. And then I need you to go and get some leaves. So I need you to go and get at least 3 or 4 different kinds of leaves if possible. So if you've got a garden, fantastic, just pop out in the garden and grab some leaves. If you haven't, you might need to just stop this recording for a moment and go and get some. So you might need to ask your parents if you can go out for a walk, or you might need to leave this lesson for another day when you can go out and get some leaves, because the leaves are really important in this lesson. So once you've got those things, we can get on with today's lesson. Okay, we are going to start with an activity called light touch, and the whole point of this activity is to do with putting the amount of pressure you put on your pencil, so how much you push your pencil down when you're using it. And the reason this is really important is to avoid something called ghosting. So I'm going to give you an example of ghosting so you can see why this is important, and then I'll show you the task that we're going to do. So here's my paper. Here's my pencil. If I press really hard with my pencil, okay, and I've got a line there, can you see that? If I go to, if I think, oh no, I've done that wrong, and I go to rub it out, can you see how even though I've rubbed it out, you can still see a mark that's left behind, and it's got an indent in the paper, and although the mark's white, it's still there, and that's called ghosting, and we want to make sure that doesn't happen. And the way that we can make sure that doesn't happen is by always using a really light touch to start off with. So I want you to pick up your pencil, and we're just going to draw circles today. This lesson's all about shape, so we're going to start with a nice simple shape like a circle. And we're going to start up in the corner, and I just want you to draw a circle as you would normally, however dark that circle might be when you're drawing it. And then what I want you to do is I want you to keep drawing circles all the way across the page, but I want them to gradually get lighter and lighter, because I want you to use less and less pressure with your pencil. So less and less pushing down towards that paper. And we're going to keep going. And we're going to keep going all the way. And you can see they're getting lighter and getting a bit smaller as well. Don't worry about the size of them as long as they're pencil. I'm going to get lighter. You see how you can hardly see that one now. And lighter. And lighter. Once you've done it once, once you've done one line and it's getting lighter and lighter and lighter, I then want you to have a go at doing exactly the same thing again, but holding your pencil differently. So the first time we were just holding it in our tripod grip as usual. The next time, try using just the very top of your pencil. So remember that wiggly approach that we had yesterday where it was a really loose grip in our hand. Okay, so right at the very end. Then try holding it with your fist. Okay, so you've got it and you're pushing down quite hard when you use your fist, so you'll see what happens to it then. Then try laying your pencil down horizontally. How easy is it to draw a circle when you've got your pencil laid or in line with the paper rather than stood upright? And then have a go at using that idea that we did the other day where we had our finger right on top of the point and we were pushing down. How easy is it to change the pressure? Which one produces the lightest touch? Which one works the best if we want to start with a light touch? Okay, so a whole page of covered in circles. Okay, once you've done that, I want you to flip over your page, and then I want you to cover this page in lots and lots of the lightest touch circles you can manage, so that when you do this page, you'll barely be able to see those circles. They can be all different sizes. You can have big circles and small circles, but I want to barely be able to see them. You can see if I draw a normal circle now, and you see how these circles here you can barely see. So I want a whole page, no dark circles. I don't want any of those. I want the lightest touch circles you can. So 2 sides of your paper are going to be covered in circles. Dark all the way to light, using different types of grip, and then cover your page using the technique which produced the lightest circle down here. Off you go. Have you got your 2 pages covered in circles? I wonder which kind of grip was the most useful for drawing lightly. I found as soon as I held my pencil really tight, it was quite difficult to draw lightly. So I definitely think holding the pencil further away I found the easiest for drawing that light touch. I wonder if it was the same for you. Right, let's find out a bit more about shape now then, shall we? Here we go. So we were doing lines yesterday, weren't we? Today, we are doing the key element of shape. So all shape is a line that closes up. It goes back to its starting point to create a shape. So yesterday, we were doing lines that joined one point to another. Today, that point has to go all the way back round again. So it might have lots of points on the journey, but it's got to end up back at the starting point to produce a closed shape. So if I show you on this board here, this is a line, this is a line that makes a shape because I've ended up back where I started from. It's closed. This is an open line, so it's not a shape. So this is the line that we're talking about today, a closed line, one that creates a shape. So that's any part of our artwork that's flat and has got an enclosed area like that is called a shape. There are 2 main kinds of shapes that artists think about. They think about geometric or regular shapes, and they're the shapes that we look at when we're doing maths work. Okay, so squares and triangles and those circles we used at the beginning, we were drawing geometric shapes. The other kind of shape that artists use are organic shapes, and another word for organic shapes, or natural or free form shapes, and they're the shapes that appear in nature. So it might be the shape of a leaf, or the shape of a tree, or the shape of a flower. So they're things that naturally occur that we need to draw. It might be the shape of an animal, okay, but they're not geometric. They're not the ones we look at in maths. These shapes, when we combine them together, help to make our drawings much more complex. And everything around us in the world can be seen as shapes. So that's the first thing that we're going to do today. We're going to think about drawing just shapes. So we're going to start by drawing just geometric shapes, okay? So we need our objects for this. So I've got some objects. I wonder what objects you've got. I'll show you my objects. So I have got a pencil here. I have got a little Playmobil character here. I've got a ball. And then I've got some of my leaves here as well, you can see. So clean page, okay. Our first job is to pick 3 of our objects. At least one of them must be a leaf, okay. And we're going to draw them, but we're only allowed to draw geometric shapes. We're only allowed to draw those shapes that we look at in maths when we're doing 2D shapes. So my first one is really easy, because if I was going to draw a ball, I would draw a circle, okay, and that would represent my ball. If I'm going to draw this leaf, that becomes a bit more tricky, because actually it's not a circle, it's not a square, it's not a triangle. So I'm going to have to think about how I can combine shapes to make that leaf shape. So I'm going to start, it's got some curved lines, so I think it's going to need maybe, I think, an oval shape, like that. And then I am going to add on the bottom 2 triangles to represent the pointed bits at the end. So you can see I've used an oval, and then I've used 2 triangles to make that shape. When I come to my little character here, he is quite tricky because he's got lots of parts to him. Can you see that? So if I flip over my page, I'm going to have to really think about him. I want just shapes. So let me stand him up. Here we go. So I'm going to have, let's start with his body, I think. I'm going to draw another oval for his body. And then I think I'm going to draw some more ovals for his legs and maybe another oval for his head. I think I might draw a triangle on the top there for his ear. I think he probably needs some smaller ovals for his feet. And then I think maybe some smaller ovals again, changing direction for his tail. Okay, so I'm only allowed to use, I might even put a slight triangle on his head to show his pointed nose, but I'm not sure about that one because it's a bit too pointy, but I think it'll have to do. So we're only allowed to use geometric shapes. So can you take 3 objects now? 2 objects from around the house and 1 leaf, and I would like you to draw them just using geometric shapes. So we can use circles, we can use squares, we can use triangles. Okay, you could use a hexagon if it was a hexagon shape. You can use ovals. Okay, you can use rectangles. Any of those shapes that we use in maths, but you cannot draw shapes that aren't made like that. So you have to try and simplify the thing that you're looking at just by drawing it in shapes. Off you go. Okay, we're ready for step 2 now. So you've done just your geometric shapes. Now we're going to use a contour line to draw a shape. And you might remember from when we were talking about it yesterday, contour lines are the outlines of shapes. Okay, so I could, if my object is big enough, draw a contour line for my shape by just taking my pencil all the way round the outside of my object. So if you've got a small object, you can have a go and do that to start off with, and you'll get a contour line, the line that goes all the way round the outside of your shape. If you do that, I then want you to have a go freehand. That means drawing it yourself. Okay, so you're going to put him down again, and now you're going to try and do it without drawing around it. So you're going to draw a picture of him next to him. Okay. Now, this is really important. You're going to spend more time looking at your object than you do at your drawing. Okay, it's really tempting to keep your eyes right here on what you're drawing. But the key to getting a really good outline is to keep looking, spend more time looking at your character than you spend looking at your drawing. So we're going to start going up. I can see it goes up and then it comes down. And then there's a round part. I can see the leg, and that's quite thin. My lines are close together. I've got a straight line there. Then I've got another straightish line. I've then got a line that comes down and round. More of a curved line again. And round to his bottom. And then I just missed out his tail. I need to draw his tail in, so I need a contour line. I need to go all the way around the outside. I missed out his tail bit. I shouldn't really have that bit there. Hopefully, have I got a ghosting line? Let's have a look. Have I drawn it light enough? Not too bad, is it? Not too bad. So you're going to draw a contour line drawing. Okay, so freehand and by drawing around your shape if you've got a shape that's small enough. The final type of drawing you're going to do is a really detailed drawing of your shape. So this time I'm going to take one of my leaves and I'm going to look really carefully at this leaf. Okay, and I'm going to look at first of all, what kind of line do I need to draw this shape? Well, actually, if I look at it, it's a bit of a zigzag shape, isn't it? The line that I'm going to be drawing is zigzags. So I'm going to have to start thinking about that pointy zigzag line I did yesterday. And I'm going to start by drawing my contour line again. Okay, I'm going to go all the way around the outside. But this time, I'm going to add into my shape any other clear lines that I can see. So you can see on this leaf, I've got a really clear line going right up the centre of it. I've got a really clear line going up to this point here. I've got a really clear line going up to here. And then I've got those were all straight lines. I've then got some curved lines coming in round here. So I am going to have to do some really careful looking and observing. And I'm going to have to keep my eyes on this. It's really tricky. It's going to take a little bit of time. Okay. When you've had a little practice and you think, actually, I'm quite good at that, You're then going to take one page and your favourite leaf, okay, whichever leaf it is. You're going to fold your page into 3, like this, okay? And on this side, you're going to start with your geometric shapes. So this is going to be our geometric side. Then we're going to go on and we're going to do our contour line version. And then we're going to go on and do a detailed drawing of our leaf. So over here, it's just going to be shapes. So it might be triangles to show the outside of the leaf. Okay, we might have a trapezium there in the middle, and then a small thin rectangle at the bottom to show the leaf. Then I'm going to be very carefully going all the way around with my zigzag line. And finally, I'm going to draw a really detailed leaf with all the lines that I can see on that leaf, okay? So a bit of practice first, play around with some of them to start off with and see how you get on. When you think, yeah, I've got those 3 different kinds of shape drawing cracked, then you can make your finished product today, which is going to be a piece of paper folded into 3 with a geometric version, a contour version, and a detailed version. And I wonder which one you're going to be most happy with when you come back to me. See you soon. Okay, how did you get on? Hopefully you've managed to do that. Did you manage to do those really careful contour lines? Did you look really closely? What kind of lines did you do? Can you write on the bottom of your work now, which was your favourite one? So I think this one was the best, and why? Why did you like it? Was it because you thought it looked really similar to the object you were looking at? Was it because you thought really carefully about what kind of line you were using to make your shape? Whatever the reason, I want you to write that at the bottom. And then we're going to have a look at how some real artists use shape. So let's have a look now. So here is an example of a painting by Russo. This painting is extremely famous. It's called The Equatorial Jungle. And one of the key types of painting that he did were jungle scenes. So he did landscapes that were supposed to be in jungles. So let's have a look at that picture. Is he using geometric shapes or is he using natural shapes and lines in his painting? Which one is he using the most? So have a look now. Can you see any geometric shapes? Most of them are natural shapes, aren't they? They're organic shapes. So that's really key. His painting, because he was drawing landscapes, was mainly organic shapes. Sometimes, if you're drawing landscapes and they have lots of buildings in them, you might find that there's a lot more geometric shapes, but because he was drawing very natural things in his landscapes, he used natural shapes, organic shapes more often than he used geometric shapes. And then my second question is there any repetition of shapes in here to make a pattern? So when we take a shape and we repeat it lots of times, there tends to be a pattern. Can you see any pattern or repeated shapes in there? I wonder if you spotted this one down here. This is the first one that caught my eye in the foreground here in the front of the painting, was these shapes here, the leaf over and over again to create little bushes. You see that? And there's lots over here as well where he's repeated the same shape over and over again for those leaves. So there was quite a lot of repetition to make patterns in there, wasn't there? Let's have a look at a second painting. So this painting is called The Apes in the Orange Grove. Are there any geometric shapes in there? What jumps out at you? I can spot one shape that we've been looking at quite a lot today. Can you see it? Those oranges that are in the picture are made of a geometric shape of a circle, aren't they? And actually, oranges aren't perfect circles, but most of these, he's made circles. Although some of them are hidden by leaves, we've got more of a geometric shape than we saw in the last picture there, haven't we? And then again, we've got lots of organic or natural shapes because he's used the natural lines to create the nature that he's drawing. And again, we've got lots of repetition. Can you see all that repetition? Lots of leaves drawn over and over and over and over again. So that's how Russo uses shapes in his paintings. I think it's time to find out a little bit more about Russo, isn't it? So we're going to start with his early career today. And remember yesterday I showed you this book. So I'm going to read you the first few pages of this book. I want you to see if you can think about the 5 main things you learn about Russo from this book. So it's called The Fantastic Jungles of Henry Russo. Okay. And you can see the author of this book and the illustrator of this book have used Russo's paintings as inspiration for the illustrations on their book. So Russo didn't actually do this painting. It was the illustrator of the book, who's called Amanda Hall, but she used the paintings of Russo to decide how to do the drawings. So here we go. Henry Russo wants to be an artist. Not a single person has ever told him he is talented. He's a toll collector, so he collects money. He's 40 years old, but he buys some canvas, paints and brushes, and he paints anyway. And there he is. That's Henry Russo. That's the artist's impression of Henry Russo. And you can see here, he's going off with his paints and his brushes to give it a go. Okay, let's see what happens next. Why is he going off? Why? Because he loves nature. Because when he strolls through the parks of Paris, it's like the flowers open their hearts, the trees spread their arms, and the sun is a blushing ruby, all for him. So he absolutely loves nature. And so it was nature in Paris that was his inspiration to start drawing in the first place. Henry can't afford art classes, so he has to be his own teacher. He goes to the Louvre and examines the Saturday paintings of his favourite artists. To learn about anatomy, he studies photographs and illustrations from postcards, magazines, and catalogues. So he didn't have somebody sat with him showing him how to do it. He just went to the Louvre and he looked at the paintings that were there and he observed them really closely, and he took his sketchbook like we've been doing and sketched things, and he sketched and he sketched, and then he went home and he turned them into paintings. One day, Henry read about a big art exhibition. He put his canvas in a handcart and wheels them to the building where the show will be held. He's 41 years old, and this is the very first time he'll display his work. He can hardly wait to hear what the experts will say. We can go and have a look. See, here he is with his trolley with his paintings in. So he's really excited. He's waiting to find out what these experts are going to say. Is it going to be good news or is it going to be bad news? What will the experts say? Mean things. That's what most of them write. But Henry snips out the articles anyway and pastes them into a scrapbook. So he doesn't get very good feedback. They're not very nice to him, and he's not feeling very happy. So not the calmest of starts to his artistic journey, is it? He was already quite old. He wasn't a youngster when he started drawing. He was quite old, and his first go at it, he didn't get very good reviews at all. So let's think about the 5 things we've learnt about Russo today. So the first thing I think we've learned is that he was a self-taught artist. He didn't have a teacher. He just gave it a go. He experimented, he played, he observed until he got to create some paintings. Secondly, he was inspired. So he decided, what do I want to draw? What do I want to paint? And he knew that he loved nature, so he used that as his topic. He spent a lot of time looking at other paintings, photographs and magazines. And then he displayed his work for the first time when he was 41. So he wasn't straight out of school. That wasn't the first thing he did, but he still thought he wanted to give it a go. But his work was not well received. They were not happy with it. I hope his career is going to get better. I think we know that it does, don't we? Because we talked about how expensive some of his paintings have sold for. But you can see that it wasn't successful straight away. And what that shows us is that we've got to persevere with art. We've got to keep going. So hopefully in today's lesson, you've persevered, you've kept going, you've drawn all those circles until you've got the lightest touch. You've had a go at drawing the outlines of those shapes, the contour lines. You've had a go at drawing some details. And you're going to keep trying. So if you think you need a bit more practice, keep trying before the next lesson. And then when we come back to do the next lesson tomorrow, we're going to be looking at space and we're going to be finding out a little bit more about Henry Russo. But that's it for today. Well done. You've done a super job. I will look forward to seeing you for our next lesson. Keep practicing, keep persevering, and you too could be as good as Henry Russo one day.